Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So we're going to make this fantastic clown. He has got to be one of my best designs personally. Let's measure this guy up. He is about 21 inches long, so about the size of a newborn. Size of a newborn baby. And I mean, his arms are about 7 inches wide. He's a big boy, about the size of a baby. So, these flowers here are crocheted in. They're not they're crocheted in as we go. They're not crocheted separately and sewn on. They're actually crocheted in. So you're going to learn how to do that, and they're super duper cute. Look at them. And excuse me, I have another bad cold. All of this is crocheted on, so arms and legs are all crocheted on. He has no panties, so I didn't put any color for underwear or anything. So you're going to need some buttons. This is crocheted. The face is pretty simple. Now the hat, so my buttons finally came in that I got for my Volkswagen that I was telling you guys about, and there's these little wooden daisies. I got them on Amazon. So they finally came in. So I put some on my Volkswagen that I made, and I was thinking about maybe putting some on his hat. Just gluing them to his hat. So I think that would look super cute. So I'm probably going to do that off camera. This hair, I'm going to show you, is this Lion's brand Wool Ease Thick and Quick. And the color is pumpkin. That's what I used for the hair. I didn't brush it. This is just the way it comes out of the roll. So that's what I used for the hair. So I'm probably going to use that again for the hair. The colors are probably going to be a little bit different for me, for my guy. But most of my yarn is Craft Smart. I tend not to use anything but Craft Smart. So let's jump right into this. So these are the arms and legs, and we're going to do those first. The colors I'm choosing to use for his socks and his shirt are going to be orange and blue, and they're going to be mixed and matched on like both his. So down here I've got two different colored socks, and then up here I've got the blue and the pink for his arm sleeves from his shirt, because his shirt I striped. I don't know if I'm going to do stripes this time around, but his socks are two different colors and his sleeves are two different colors. So I'm going to do the same thing here, but they're going to be orange and blue. And then I went with green for his mitts and his shoes. So that's what I'm going to be doing as far as my colors. And then this is just an off-white color. I don't have any of my tags for any of this. So, but you can pick your own colors. You don't need, they're all Craft Smart. Pretty sure every single one of them are Craft Smart because I don't generally use anything else. So we're going to build these first because this whole guy is built together. And we're going to start with this. This video is going to have chapters, so it's going to be easier for you to get around it. So starting with the foot, we're going to use a 4.5 millimeter hook. You're going to need a stitch marker because things are built in amigurumi. We're going to start with a magic ring. You're going to put 6 single crochets in here. Your next row is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So after your first stitch, that's where the marker goes. And then your second one goes in there. So whatever yarn you're using, whatever hook it calls for, go down in hook size, because amigurumi is built tighter than your average piece of work. So 2 single crochets in each stitch around gives you a total of 12 stitches when you're done. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's my 1 single crochet, and that's where my marker goes. I'm going to weave in my tail. I've pulled my magic ring nice and tight. I'm going to weave him in, but you don't have to do this. My next stitch is going to get the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets all the way around for a total of 18 stitches. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's number 2. And then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat this all the way around for a total of 24 stitches. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's my 3 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase, which is 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat this all the way around for 30 stitches. So this is what you should have. For the next 6 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 30 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what 6 rows looks like. We're going to decrease a little bit. So I want you to do a 3 single crochet decrease. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then your decrease. If you want to do the invisible ones, if you want to do a decrease normally, you go into the full stitch, pull up a loop, next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all of your loops. If you want to do an invisible one, you do the exact same thing, but you do it in the front loops. So in the front loop of your first stitch, and then you kind of pop across and go into the front loop of your second stitch, yarn over, pull through those 2, and then yarn over and finish the stitch. So that's an invisible decrease, and it just cuts down on the gapping that you get when you do a decrease. So 3 single crochet decrease all the way around will leave you with 24 stitches. For the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 24 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So that's my 2 rows done. So now we're going to do something a little bit different. This is a shoe. Right, so this is his toe. We need this part to stay flat, but we need this part to kind of go, you know, down like a foot does, right? So we're going to decrease here, but we're not going to decrease here. So this is how we're going to hold it. So this is on the side. So this will be the top, and this is the bottom. So you're going to do 2 single crochet decrease 3 times. And then the rest is just going to be 1 single crochet in the last 12 stitches. So we have 24 stitches currently, so we're decreasing half of this foot. That's number 1. That's 2, and then a decrease. That's 1 time. Do it again. Two times. Last time. And then you should have 12 stitches back to your marker. And you're just going to put 1 in single crochet in each of those 12 stitches. So this part's decreased and this part is not. So you're just going to have to remember that where your marker is on the right hand side is how your foot is. So you know that that's not going to be the top of your foot. This will be the top of your foot with the marker on the right side, if you've done everything like me. So your next round, which is round 15, is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of these 21 stitches is what you should have. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to decrease, but only on the top. So this one's going to be a 1 single crochet decrease, so you're going to do it 4 times. So that's number 1. So we pop right into our decrease for number 1. Keep going. 2. 3. 4 times. You should have 9 single crochets back to your marker. I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those. You should have a total of 17 stitches when you're done. There we go. You can start stuffing this. We're going to do something a little bit different. I've never done with a foot before, but I did it. So this is a clown foot. This is an oversized, great big honkin' clown foot. So there was things that needed to be done to make it look that way. Which normally you wouldn't do with a foot, but I did. I just want to make sure I'm stuffing this part flat, right? So this comes down over like this. This part stays flat. I also have to make sure I'm not making it bigger than my other foot. That looks pretty close. All right. So we're going to do 1 single crochet. So we're going to put our marker in, and then we're going to make some chains. We're going to chain 8 from here. Oh my good lord. Okay, that was a difficult chain 8. We're going to skip 6 stitches. So 2, 4, 6, and in this 7th stitch, we're going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to do, this would be 10 single crochets back to your marker, counting this one. That's my 10. And now you're going, Tara, what the heck are you doing? Yeah, it's weird. So now we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Meaning, this chain we just made, you need to get into those stitches. A little bit of a pain in the butt, but well worth it to get the exact shoe that I saw in my head when I was designing this. We are going to be getting into these on the other side, so just pick up this one loop in the stitch. Oh, this is my 18th stitch, so this is what you should have. This is where we're going to reattach and start building his leg from, so that's why we just did all of that. So now we're just going to focus on finishing off this shoe. We're going to do 1 single crochet decrease 4 times. So again, we're just decreasing the top and not the bottom. So that's 1 single crochet, and this is my decrease. That's 1 time. That's 4 times. And then you should have 6 single crochets back to your marker. This leaves you with 14 stitches. Well, I screwed up because I've got 7. Somewhere I did something wrong. No big deal. For the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 14 stitches. Alright, so we're going to do 1 single crochet decrease around the whole thing, but you're going to have 2 extra stitches left. You're not going to be able to do the whole entire round. So just put 1 single crochet in those 2 extra stitches. Should leave you with 10 stitches. And then we'll fasten off. So, going to your next stitch, you're going to fasten off. We're going to cinch this shut. We need to stuff it. This part was difficult for me. Stuffing it so I can cinch it properly. So it's not the easiest thing to do because of this hole. That's what makes it so difficult. Just make sure you're going to fill this spot pretty good. You can always... So I'm not sure where my camera shut off, but apparently my camera shut off. Now I have to look at the footage. Anyway, hopefully my camera was with me at least to the part where I'm like, did my crocheting. I did not hear the camera beep. Usually it beeps when it shuts off. Anyway, so I've cinched it closed, so hopefully you're with me with that. So now this stuffing that I had extra, I'm just going to push it out to the end. So I'm going to be working into this hole, which is something I already said, and I don't think I was filming myself. So this is your shoe. So, we're going to reattach here with whatever sock color. My last sock was blue, so my other sock is going to be orange. So I'm reattaching it with this orange. So if you can manage it, we need to be in the back loop of our shoe, because I need to use the front loop for putting a trim around this. It's going to make it look like a shoe and a sock separately. So whatever sock color you have, reattach. So in each back loop, now you're going to have to use your finger to kind of push it up. Put one single crochet in there. So it might be a little slow going, but it'll look really cool at the end when we get everything done. Should end up with 16 stitches. The worst part is trying not to get my stuffing in here. So these stitches are from our chain, so you're really not going to be able to get into any kind of back loop or anything, so just wherever you can stick your hook. So, I wasn't not counting my stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. That's not counting where we attached, because we don't use that stitch. So this is where we attached, but we avoid that stitch like the plague and go into the first stitch that you made. So for the next 6 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 16 stitches. And then we'll switch to the skin color because that'll be our sock. So this is my 6 rows. I'm going back to the skin color. So this last stitch, I'm going to kind of back out of this last stitch. I'm going to finish it. Let me get my skin color here. I'm going to finish my last stitch with my new color. Now I personally like to tie these two so I don't have to do any sort of weaving, because I feel that it thickens one side more than the other. So you can cut off your sock color. Get that out of the way. So before we start with our skin color, this can just get tucked away. I haven't stuffed anything yet. So, with the skin color, I want you to go into the back loops only of the orange. And you're going to do 1 single crochet all the way around, but in the back loops, because I need the front loops for something. We need the front loops for something. You don't really need a marker because you got a color change here, but 1 single crochet in the back loops all the way around for 16 stitches. So for the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 16 stitches. So far, easy peasy. I'm going to stuff mine though because I'm having a hard time holding it. And generally when you stuff it, you struggle to hold it, but in this instance, so when you're stuffing this part of your foot is going to turn. And that's just naturally what's going to happen to it. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way I saw the foot when I designed it, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So don't try to overstuff to compensate for this little turn, because it's just going to do that because that's the way it was designed. So just watch how much stuffing that you use, because you don't want it popping out here, right? I want to see it. I can see mine a little bit, but I'm putting a border around here, which is why I needed these front loops. I'm putting this around to make it look like a shoe. And then around the top, the reason I needed the front loops, and I made you go into the back loops just now, is because I'm putting a sock border around it. So that looks like a shoe, and that looks like a sock. And that's why I did that. So for the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 16 stitches. So you're going to do 4 single crochet increase. You're going to get you're going to be able to do that 3 times. You're going to have 1 extra stitch that you're just going to put a single crochet into. This gives you 19 stitches when you're done. So that's number 1. This is 4 single crochets. So your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. This is my 1 extra stitch. I'm just putting a single crochet in there, and I know I have 19 stitches. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase, and you're going to have 3 extra stitches at the end of this. This gives you 23 stitches altogether. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. And I have 3 extra stitches left, and I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those. And I have 23 stitches. For the next 10 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 23 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So this is what my 10 rows is. So we're going to fasten off here on our first foot. I'm not fastening off because this is my second foot. But after you make your second foot, don't fasten off, because we are crocheting the body on top of these legs. But we will build the arms next before we start the body, because we kind of need to have the arms already done. So this is how it should be stuffed. Like he's got a great big honking calf muscle. To my other one is stuffed. So I'm not going to fasten off, but we're not done this guy yet, so don't go anywhere. But I'm just letting you know the reason I'm not fastening off is because this is my second leg. So I'm just going to put a stitch marker on my loop to protect it. But we're going to do our stuff around here before we start building our arm. So get whatever shoe color that you had and make a slip knot. So reattach. So here you've got the front loops. If I can get into it, you've got front loops. I want to use those because you only got them up here. You don't have them all the way around. I do want to use those for what we're doing, but I want you to reattach just back here before the loops, and we're going to kind of just pick up a small little post just to reattach with, because we're not pull up on this. We're not using this as just a reattached stitch. We're actually going to twist it, and then we're going to finish the stitch. So we're going to do a twisted single crochet all the way around. So now that we're attached with our twisted single crochet, you can go into these loops. I know it's going to be hard to see. So first of all, I should explain, this loop needs to be big before we do this. So go back into this. That one's tight. They won't all be tight. This one's tight though. I'm not sure why. So pull up. You want these 2 big long loops. Then you're going to twist it, yarn over, and finish the stitch. Pull up on this loop, make this loop big, go into your next front loop, twist, and finish the stitch. Oh, I'm stuck on something. Pull up on this loop. So this is a twisted single crochet. It's hard to spin because of the leg. It's important you make sure you pull up on that loop as well as the other loop, or you're not going to be able to yarn over and pull through very easily because it's going to be super duper tight. So pull up on that loop. You'll also have to pull up on this loop. So we're running out of front loops, and then we're just going to start picking up whatever we can get our hook into, which is generally just posts. So you guys still do the same thing. Make sure that you're pulling up on that loop. So you won't notice that we've just changed our style. I forgot to pull up on my loop. So they're just tiny little posts because we've stretched it out, right? I keep forgetting to pull up on my loop. Just make sure you're staying in that green part. The sock will be easier to do this with because we have front loops all the way around. I have one more post. So when I come back around, I'm just going to go into this first one that I did and fasten off. So I tie these two together just for safety reasons in a tight double knot. You'll never see that knot, so don't worry about the knot being visible because it will not be. It will not be. Anyway, and then you can just pull it down. When you do that, it actually sucks the knot inside, so it'll never be visible and you'll never be able to feel it. So we do the same thing with the orange, or whatever your sock color, sorry, not orange. So that's what it looks like. So it actually looks like it's a shoe now. Do the same thing, but all around the top is front loops. There is a jog here. I'll show you how to deal with that. So I'm going to get my orange because that's my sock color, and I'm going to make another slip knot. I'm going to reattach at this jog. So go into your front loop. Reattach, pull up, twist it, and pull through. Pull up on this loop, go into the next front loop, So you're just going to do the same thing all the way around. The higher you pull up on this loop, the better your twist is going to look. So if you don't want it so defined, don't pull up. So like make it tighter. If you want it more defined, then pull up further. Sorry, my camera shut off. I'm right at the end. I'm on my last loop. Of course my camera would shut off when I'm right at the end. That's what it likes to do. So that's my last stitch. So as you can see, it's higher than the other one, and you're going like, oh dear Lord, what do I do? You don't really do anything. You're going to come down here, do what we just did in the last one. It will just look even. Does that make sense? Same thing. Give this a tie. A tight double knot. The only difference is with this, what we do with our orange piece. So this guy is going to go down and shoot out sideways over here. This guy is going to shoot out up here to make this look even. That's what's going to happen. That's the only difference really, is this dude's going to come down here and you're going to shoot out above here and pull, and then it makes it look evener. Evener? That's the word of the day. And that's our leg. So let's move on to the arm, and then that'll be the end of chapter 1. So let's get this arm done. First we need to start by making a thumb. So this thumb is made separately and then crocheted into the mitt. So start with a magic ring. Of 6 single crochets. And I need another stitch marker because mine is in the leg. 2 in my leg. So this is it for the thumb. For the next 3 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So, I mean, technically you don't really need a stitch marker. You can just count to 18, but So that's my 3 rows. That's what it looks like. So I'm just gonna stick my straggler in there. You can put a little bit of stuffing in this, but not until after we crochet it to the doll, just because it's easier. Well, I mean, I guess you can do whatever you want. It's your little thumb, but that is it. So you can go into your next stitch and fasten off. So you just need a sewing tail just to sew it to the hand when we build the hand. So, like I said, you can stick some in here. It's such a tiny little amount. There's really no point doing it. And it may impede doing your stitches around when you crochet it on. I'm not stuffing mine, so I'm just saying. But it's completely up to you. So, let's move on to the hand. You can start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch around, bringing you up to 12 stitches. But after your first stitch, that's where the marker goes. So you can pull everything tight. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. So I've pulled my middle tight. I am going to weave my piece in. I did on my thumb for just a couple of stitches, but that's just to secure my ring. So that's 1 single crochet with your marker. So this next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. Repeat. For the next 5 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 18 stitches, and then we'll get the thumb sewn on. So I will see you on the other side. So this is my 5 rows. So when I sew stuff on, I like to sew it on in the same spot every single time. Doesn't matter what video I'm doing, doesn't matter what I'm making. I always like to start right after the stitch marker. So get your thumb on your needle. I'm going to use 3 stitches. And that is super important for our numbers. I can't zoom in anymore, but I'll try to get closer. So I've gone through this first stitch. I'm going to go through that again. I'm going to go through the second stitch on the thumb and go through the second stitch on the hand. This is my 3rd stitch on my thumb and my 3rd stitch on my hand. And then I'm just going to kind of double back, pulling tight, making sure it's secure. I'm going to make a knot, so I'm going to pull through and go through the loop. Give it a little bit of a wiggle, and that is it. People seem to think it's so hard to make hands like this, but it's actually not. So there, your thumb's on. Now we just need to crochet around it. So you're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and if you just sewed your thumb on the way I did, you're going to have the same amount of numbers I have. So that's what it looks like on the other side. So this is your stitch marker spot. And then you instantly go in to your first stitch, but it's also one of the spots we use to start sewing with. But you can go into that. It cuts down on the gapping. So you definitely will not have any holes if you use it. But if you were to come over here, you might have a little bit of a hole. And then just go stitch for stitch. So again, this is my sew spot that I use for sewing, the stitch I use for sewing, but I'm still going to use it for a stitch. And then I'm going to pop across to the hand and pick up the first stitch, which is probably another shared spot that I sewed with. But I have no holes between my thumb and my hand, and that's why I do that. So let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches so far. So this is my 21st stitch. So 21 stitches, that's what you should have if you followed everything I just told you to follow. So your numbers should be the same as mine. So now we have to decrease. You're going to do a 2 single crochet decrease. You're only going to get about 5 times around, and then you're going to have 1 extra stitch. And that's okay, because that'll give you 16 stitches, which is a lot easier number to divide into. So this next stitch here is going to be small. So just make sure you get into that. So this is number 1. That counts as number 1 right there. This next small space, the stitch is small because you went into the sewing spot. Just make sure you get into that. So that's 2, and then I do my decrease. So I'm going to do invisible using the front loops only. And I'm going to continue all the way around. So I'm done. I can't do any more. I have 1 stitch left. You should have 16 stitches. For the next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 16 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So this is what you should have. Let's put some stuffing in this before we continue. And this is where I said you could probably shove some down into your thumb. It's a lot easier to do it this way than the other way, but not much, because your thumb will stick out if you do too much. So I'm just going to take some of this. I'm going to hold my thumb down while I pack it. That way I know that a whole lot's not going to be shoved in there. So I just got to make sure mine is going to be the same size. I don't want 2 different size hands. So you'll have to do that too when you're making your second one. You'll have to just kind of compare when you're stuffing it, how you're stuffing it. So we're going to decrease again, then we're going to go to our skin color. So you're going to do a 1 single crochet decrease all the way around. You'll have that extra 1 stitch left. just put a single crochet in it, and then we'll change to our skin color in that last stitch. Oh, that's one single crochet, so I have to go into my decrease. So this is my last stitch. So I'm not going to finish it with my green. I'm going to finish it with my skin color. And then as per usual, I'm going to take my straggler and I'm going to tie these two together just so I don't have to weave. The super duper duper tight knot, so it's so small that you won't even feel it with all the stuffing that's going to happen. So we're going to do back loops again because I want to put that around the top. So I'm going to need the front loop. So in the back loops, you're going to do a 2 single crochet increase. You're going to do that 3 times around. You're going to have a couple of stitches left. So just put 1 single crochet in those couple of stitches in the back loops only. So that's 2 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets an increase of 2 single crochets in the same back loop. So I have 2 stitches left. I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those back loops, and I have 14 stitches. For the next 16 rows, and you're going to go into the whole stitch this time. For the next 16 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 14 stitches, and then we'll switch to the shirt color. So I will see you on the other side. Stuff as you go. So this is my 16 rows. Take my marker out. So in my last stitch, this is my last stitch of my 16th row, I'm going to change to my shirt color. So on this one I got orange, so on this one I'm going to do blue. That's just me. You don't need to do whatever, like you just do whatever colors you're doing. And again, I'm taking my straggler and so if you're not familiar with tension and stuff like that, I would not suggest doing this. I do it because I know what my tension is, and you know, I'm kind of used to doing it, so. Oh my gosh, if I could just get my straggler. There it is. So, let's shove that in there. Cut off my skin color. It can be shoved down into there. So with my shirt color, I'm going to do 4 rows. There's no increasing or anything. We're still going to carry on with our 14 stitches. I'm just going to do 4 rows with my shirt color now. So I will see you after your 4 rows. And we're going to fasten off. So that's my 4 rows all done. I'm going to go into the next stitch and fasten off. So you don't need a great big long sewing tail. We're just going to sew this to the body of the clown when we get there, just like we did with the thumb to the hand. So you just need a short little tail to do that with. take your green, we're going to reattach in the front loops of this to finish off our arm. And then we're going to end chapter 1 with this. I will put my screens up for your arms and legs, and you can get that done before chapter 2. Oh gosh, I'm tired. So find your jog here with your front loops and go into the bottom one, so the lowest one, and reattach with a twisted. So you're going to twist right off the bat, just like we did with the other ones. And make sure you're going to pull up on this loop, and we do the same thing that we did with the leg. I'm going to go down here into wherever. I mean, I don't try to get into anything. I just stick it wherever I stick it. Fast enough. And a bit of a weaving, sewing, tying a knot tail. So I can tie your double knot. One goes up, one goes down. So I'm going to go down with this guy, pull out somewhere, and to keep things nice and even looking, I'm going to go up with this guy. And that will even that right out, so you won't see that jog. And that is our arm. So just make sure that when you do your other, like your second piece, that you are stuffing it the same as your other piece. Does that make sense? As far as roundness. So you want the roundness to be the same. I think mine's pretty much the same. Through the camera it's kind of hard to tell, but I think mine's pretty much the same. But the same goes for your legs. Your shoes and your legs have to be the same size. So just make sure that they are, because this comes out here, right? So go ahead, make all your second parts, and when we come back in chapter 2, we're going to be starting with crocheting the legs together. So I'll see you in chapter 2. Hi guys, welcome back to chapter 2. So, we are going to take our legs and we are going to sew them together. So I'm still attached to mine, as you should still be attached to your second leg. And my first leg, this is where I fastened off. So it's going to go on this side because I can just easily sew the two together. I didn't leave myself with a very long piece. So you just need to decide whether you want your feet out like that, or whether you want your feet in like that, or whether you want them just normal. I'm not sure. I think whatever just happens, happens to my feet, because I don't really care that much. So I don't think that's directly across. So I've got mine pointed out a little bit. So I'm just going to try to go into the stitch that's kind of across. I'm not sure how many stitches I used to sew this together. I'm not sure I even wrote it down. Yeah, I used 6 stitches to sew it together. So that's 3. I don't think I left a long enough piece. That's 4. That's 5. And then my 6th stitch is actually going to be in my marker spot. Which is fine. So normally I would go back again, but I'm a little short on my piece. Didn't leave myself a big enough piece. There we go. So I used 6 stitches just like I did on my last one, so hopefully my numbers are still the same. So once your 2 pieces are sewn together, we can start. So I just protected my loop. Your first round is just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So now I used my sew spots, which is why I wasn't too concerned about this being in the sew spot. I used my sew spots just so there was no gapping at all. So I'm going to put my first stitch in here, which is a sew spot. I'm going to go over here to the next stitch, and you're just going to go around just like we did in other videos, if you've done any with me. So I have 38 stitches. My first doll I had 43 stitches, so my numbers don't even match. So I'm pretty sure I counted that properly. But I'm not worrying about it because, I mean, it is what it is. You always get different numbers when you sew something together. I've explained this in so many videos, and it's true. It happens. Sometimes you get lucky and you get the same number, but I had 38, not 43, so. So I want to do an increase, but I want to do a slow increase a little bit because he's not really a fat guy. He's just a guy. So I did a 5 single crochet increase in this round. So it's number 1. That's 5 single crochets and then an increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So if you come all the way around with your 5 increase and you realize that you have extra stitches, just put a single crochet in them. I don't know what you have. I don't know where you sewed, so I don't know what your counts are. And mine are not like the counts I had in my last one, so I don't even know what I'm going to have. I'll let you know at the end of this. So just continue. So I've come all the way around. Here, I'll bring you back down here. So I've come all the way around with my 5 increase. I'm at 42 for my count, and I've got 3 more stitches. I'm just going to put 1 single crochet in those, and that gives me 45 for my row. So I got 45 stitches. For the next 7 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of however many stitches you have. Whatever stitches you have, it's not wrong, it's just different. So for 7 rows, whatever amount of stitches you have, just put 1 single crochet in each of those, and I will see you on the other side. So this is what you should have at this point. So I'm going to change to my shirt color. Originally I said I don't think I'm doing stripes again, but I think I will do stripes. I'm just going to do bigger stripes. So on my last guy, so this is where I changed the color. So we're here. Sorry. So we're here. He has no underwear on. This is why his pants go up this far. But I did small little stripes. But I don't think I'm going to do small stripes this time, but I still think I'm going to do stripes. Because the whole point of doing 2 different colors for my socks was because I was going to do a striped shirt. So I think I'm still going to do the stripes. So in this last stitch, I'm going to kind of come out of it. I'm going to finish it with, I don't know, I'll start with blue. I'm going to finish it with my shirt color. So you don't need to do stripes. I'm certainly not going to tell you when I'm doing a color change. I'm just going to do the color change. So because you don't need to do the stripes. If you want to do the stripes, you'll see me do the color change. So you can decide what you want to do when you want to do it. So I'm going to cut my white off and make this tail a little shorter. So for the next 3 rows, we're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then after the 3 rows we're going to start decreasing. So for the next 3 rows, and you can do anything you want with your shirt color, it's completely up to you. 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I've decided I'm going to do 1 blue, 1 row of blue, 2 row of orange, 1 row of blue. So that's what my stripes are going to be like. I just leave my colors hanging. I don't really do anything with them. So we're going to start decreasing now. So I want you to do a 7 single crochet decrease, and then whatever extra stitches that you have at the end, just put 1 single crochet in them. That's number 1. That is 7 single crochets, and then my decrease going to be invisible. So in the front loops, so pick up those 2 front loops, pull through, and then finish the stitch. To repeat this all the way around, and I will see you on the other side. So mine worked out evenly, and now I have 40 stitches. So your next round, I gotta switch to orange. So in your next round, you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each of those. Well, mine's 40, whatever number you have. I'm just going to say the numbers I have, but if your numbers don't match, it's perfectly fine. It's still going to look like a clown. So I'm just going to say my numbers. So I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of these 40 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So your next round is going to be 6 single crochets and a decrease. It's number 1. That is my 6 single crochets. Still using my front loops for my decrease. Repeat. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and a decrease. I gotta switch to blue. And this will bring you down to 30 stitches. And then I want you to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I'll put both of those on my screen. Number 1. That's 5 single crochets and then your decrease. All the way around, followed by 1 single crochet in each stitch. Make sure when you're stuffing this guy, you're getting down into those leg areas. Super important. So, a little harder now to hold on to a bit, but your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 25 stitches. And then I want you to do 1 single crochet in each of those 25 stitches. So your next round, I didn't use my marker because I had a color change, but your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. And see what my color change is doing? Kind of, because we work in a spiral, so it's going to keep moving. But we're soon going to be done this. So your last decrease round before we do the flower and before we do the flower and sew the arms on and everything else, your last decrease is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease, and this will bring you down to 20 stitches. And then after that, I want you to do 2 rows of 1 single crochet in each of the 20 stitches. So that's number 1 and 3 single crochets, and then your decrease. So, for this next round, we're going to be adding a flower into our crochet. So you're going to need some green. That'll be for the leaves. And then whatever flower color that you want. We're doing 2 flowers. So the first flower I did is, of course, on his shirt. If you don't want to do this flower, you can just do a row of 1 single crochet in each stitch. The second flower is on his overalls. So that's the second flower. This is the flower we're going to be doing currently. So we're right at the top or right near the head. If you don't want to do this, just do 1 round, 1 single crochet in each round. So I think, if I can reach, use scrap yarn for this, which is a bonus. So I think I'm going to do yellow because it's kind of clashy with the colors I got going on, and he is a clown, so we're gonna make him clash. So before we get to our actual flower colors, first we need to kind of come around this area. So I don't know where your marker is or anything because we sewed legs on, and I don't know how many numbers you have, and I don't know where you are, and I get just a lot of stuff I don't know. So I'm just going to say crochet around to where you want to start your flower. That is probably the easiest way to do it. Initially I had written down 13 stitches, so oops. So this is my 13th stitch. But I think that's about where I want my flower. So I'm going to say 12 stitches, and then I change to my green color. So on my 12th stitch, I'm going to finish it with green. These are easy peasy. Don't let this freak you out. It's so easy peasy. You're going to be shocked how easy peasy making a flower like this is going to be. You're going to want to do it all the time. So in the next stitch, I hope you can see me okay because this is awkward. I got his legs under my arm. Okay, so I want you to, in this next stitch, put a single crochet in there, and then you're going to chain 5. You're going to go back down into the same stitch and do a single crochet, and then you're going to chain 7. You're going to go back down into the same stitch and do a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 5 again. You're going to go down into the same stitch, but instead of finishing it with the green, you're going to finish it with whatever color you are on. If you're doing stripes like me, I'm going to finish it with my blue because I'm going back to blue. So I'm just going to kind of weave this green in for a bit, and then just 1 single crochet back around to your marker. So that's the first part of the flower. I have 7 stitches. Back to my marker. I've got to change to orange here. So I'm going to cut off my green because I don't need that anymore. Find my bobbin. Get my green out of here. gonna save that for later because we're gonna do the other flower. I'm gonna get my yellow ready. So this next round, you're gonna go up to the last stitch. So there, I got a stitch right before this green. In this instant, all you're going to do is chain one, and you're going to completely go right behind all of that and go into the next stitch. So that's going to pull that all together, and you're just going to keep going around to your marker. Easy peasy so far. So to sum up, since I'm not on camera, I did a 1 single crochet around the entire part, but when I got to the flower, I chained one, and then I just scooted in behind all the leaves and then continued with the next stitch on the other side of the leaves to finish my 1 single crochet around. Oh, my arms are sore from holding them up in the air. So this next round, that's when we're going to put the flower in. So that's your leaf for your flower, and then your flower is going to go into this big space. Oh, I gotta lay this guy down. So do 1 single crochet in each stitch around again to your flower. So for me it's 12 stitches. So on this last stitch, that's when I'm going to change to my flower color, because I'm going into this big space. Let me just do my knots. I'll be with you in a second. Okay, so I'm right before, this is the big space we're going into, the chain one space that you made. So we're going to do a cluster stitch. So what I first want you to do is put 5 double crochets into this chain one space. It's going to fill it pretty good. Oops. So that's my 5. This is worsted, so it's filling the hole nicely. Now I want you to pull up this loop. I want you to come over here into the first, I wish I could zoom. I'll zoom up in more with my editing. So I'm going to come back into this first loop with my hook. I'm going to put this loop on that I just did. It got me so far? I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull through like this. So I got my finger in there just to help it along. So now I need to go back to my shirt color. So at this instant, I'm supposed to chain 1 and go back to my shirt color. However, I'll find my orange. However, I'm going to chain 1, because you're not going to see this part, but I'm going to chain 1 with my shirt color. And then I'm going to come down here and start my single crochets again. So you will see bit of that yellow right there. Oh, sorry, right there. But once it's all built and everything's pulled down and nice and tight, you will absolutely not see that. So just finish your shirt, and that's your flower. Let me show you here what it looks like. I gotta do my color change. So that is what your flower should look like. Easy peasy, huh? So we're going to do this flower again on his overalls. And I'm going to cut my yellow off with a little bit of a tail. I do want to tie these two. It's also going to pull that yellow nice and close. Everything's going to be great. So, now that we've got our flower on, this is where we sew our arms on. Seems like a lot, doesn't it? But that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to move my yellow, because my next flower I don't think is going to be... I don't even know what color my overalls are yet. I haven't gotten that far. But that'll probably be like chapter 4. This is chapter 2, and we're just about done it, because this has been a lot of work. I just want to get the arms on and started before the head. And then we're probably going to be ending this. So get your arms. So I've got, let me zoom out. I've got 2 different colored socks, 2 different colored sleeves for my shirt, and I'm going to switch them. So my orange sleeve will be on the blue sock side and vice versa. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, when you sew your arms on, make sure your thumbs are sticking out, either like this or like this, but just make sure they're not back like this. That's all I'm saying. Okay. I think this might be okay where it is. If you have to move your marker, don't be too upset about it. It's not going to be a huge, great big deal. I do, however, want you to finish kind of stuffing this part, because it's going to be easier to figure out where you want your arms if this is fully stuffed. So that's what I suggest currently. And I think mine's good. He's pretty skinny up here. But I knew I was sewing arms on, so I wanted to bring him right in. And clowns are funny looking, so I wasn't too upset. So my arm is going to go like this. I get my needle. I always screw my arms up. I always do. So, I used 5 stitches for each. That doesn't mean I necessarily want to repeat it. So, it may be hard to see what I'm doing, especially when I'm not on camera, but... I think for this one I'm going to use 4. That's my 4th stitch right there. I think I'm going to use 4 for this one. So I'm just going to kind of come back on myself to make my knot. Go through the loop. Give it a wiggle. So I'll just stick that down there. So my hands are kind of like that. Sew my other one on. I might have to move. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I left this guy a little short too. Yeah, I'm going to have to move my marker. I'm going to have to move my tail, and I have to move my marker. Which is fine, because I was kind of meandering with my color changes anyway, so that's fine. It's going to be the same amount of stitches. You're not going to lose stitches by moving your marker. So I do want to weave in my orange when I move because I've got to start and stop in the same place with my colors. So my original marker spot was here, and I meandered that far with the spiral, but that's what happens, right? So I'm pretty sure I just got to move over a couple of stitches. I'm just going to use the back loops to do it. I don't want to really screw my stitches up too badly because I have to get into them. So I just moved a couple of stitches using the back loops. So again, I used 4 stitches for my other guy. I'm going to attempt to use 4 stitches for this guy. If I can get him in the right spot to use my 4 stitches. I know you probably can't see me very well. I don't even know what. Oh no, you can't see me. That's okay. You know what you're doing. We've already done this. Sewed our legs on, so I'm using 4 stitches. That's currently really all you need to know. I'm also probably not getting it even, which means it's going to look like my head is turned, which I like to have my heads turned anyway with just about everything I make. So I'm going to go through the loop and I'm going to make my knot and tuck everything on the inside. I think my hands are right, but my arms are probably not currently in the right position, but they never are, so I'm not overly surprised. I'm going to change my camera battery and then I'll come right back. Our next round is just 1 single crochet in each stitch. So then we'll talk about our numbers at that point because they always change once you sew something on. So we'll see where we're at. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to use my sew spaces, but just on one side. So I didn't use my sew space in here, I used it on my arm. So I'm at my flower, and there's that one stitch in there. So you just got to go down and pick up that one stitch right there. So I have 40 stitches, which is exactly what I had on my first guy. So that is good. So this is what it ultimately looks like. This here is not really going to be noticeable because he's got overall straps that are going to go over his shoulders. So we're going to do just up until we change to our skin color, and then it's going to be the end of chapter 2 because we've done a lot. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and a decrease. I have to change to my orange color because up until we do the skin color I'm still doing, oh good gosh, I'm still doing stripes. So it doesn't matter if you have more than 40 stitches or you have less than 40 stitches, it's still going to look like a clown at the end of the day. So 1 single crochet decrease, that's number 1, and then I jump right into my decrease and repeat. So I have 26 stitches. My next row is going to be orange, so I am cutting off my blue because I am not going to need it. I'm going to leave a bit of a tail just so it doesn't try to work itself out. Take it out of the equation here. So my next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. The reason why I did the 1 single crochet first is because I really needed to bring these shoulders up so that they look like shoulders. If I did a gentle decrease, it just wouldn't, I mean, it'd be fine. It just wouldn't look like a defined shoulders. And I kind of needed them to be defined because I need them to have overall straps. Oh my gosh, I can't think. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. That's number 1 with your marker. That's number 2, and then your decrease all the way around. So I did my 2 single crochet decrease all the way around. I've got 2 extra stitches left, which puts me at 20 stitches, which is where I was before I sewed the arms on. So I'm back at 20 stitches, and this is where we're going to switch back to our skin color, and then this will be the end of chapter 2. We will start the head in chapter 3. So I'm going to back out of that stitch. I'm going to finish it with my skin color. I'm going to tie these two so I don't have to weave. Cut them off short. Get rid of my orange altogether. So I will leave you with the loop being protected by your thing, and I will see you in chapter 3. We did a lot today, so you can stuff that if you want. Might make it difficult to start doing the head stuff, but you can stuff that if you want. So that's what we've gotten done. That's a lot of work. See you in the next chapter. Hi guys, welcome back. This is chapter 3. So we changed to our skin color. Thank God I protected my loop. It would have been gone. So with our skin color, We're going to start by doing a decrease followed by a round of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So the decrease we're going to do is 1 single crochet, decrease, so this is 1 single crochet. Pretty sure you already know what I'm talking about. And then your decrease is stuck. And then your decrease. And then we're going to start increasing once we do that. So you should get it done. You should have 14 stitches. Oh, I might have an extra one. I have 15 stitches. I'm not sure why. Anyway, regardless, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of those, and then we'll start increasing for the head. Oh no, I got 14. How did I miscount that? I miscounted. Sorry, first thing in the morning. Still drinking coffee. So, 14 stitches. I need to drink some coffee. This next round is going to get kind of squishy. So, we've filled up as far as we did in our last, like you completely stuffed this. But because we've just come in more, I need more shoulders stuffed, because he needs to hold on to these great big guys. So you need some football shoulders going on. So you don't technically have to do this now, however, I would suggest it because it's going to get difficult to do. Our next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So we're literally going from 14 stitches to 28 stitches. So I would do whatever stuffing you can do. Now if I backed up, it wouldn't seem so close. Alrighty, so 2 single crochets in each stitch around. This leaves you with 28 stitches. So, I know I was really far out, but I'm going to try to go halfway so I don't not keep going up and down. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase, and this should bring you up to 42 stitches. That's 1 single crochet, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So that's about as far as we're going for our head. So it should look pretty funny, pretty crowded, pretty wavy. For the next 10 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 42 stitches. And then we'll start decreasing to close up the head. So I will see you on the other side. So this is my 10 rows. I'm not going to start stuffing it yet because it's going to be difficult to crochet. The face, for the most part, what I did and what I'm going to do with this guy as well is I just sewed the face on. So there's nothing to be put in or on before we start closing it. So we can start with a 5 single crochet decrease. This will bring you down to 36 stitches. That's number 1. This is my 5th stitch. And then my decrease is going to be in the front loops. Again. And continue. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and a decrease. This will bring you down to 30 stitches. So that's number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sorry, I don't usually teach you how to count. And a decrease. I hate when people count in videos because I don't need to learn how to count. So your next round, you guessed it, 3 single crochet and decrease, opposite increase. I know what's going on, really I do. This will bring you down to 24 stitches. That's number 1 with your marker. And that's 3, and then your decrease. And repeat. I think at this point I'm going to put some stuffing in mine. I like to dig a hole and then fill the middle. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease. So if you want to work ahead of me, and then we're going to cinch. So that's number 1. And that's 2. It's probably hard to see what I'm doing now. And a decrease. So this row will bring you down to 18, and then your next row will bring you down to 12. I'm just going to put both rows up on my pause screen, and I will see you before we cinch. So that's what you should have left. This tiny wee little hole. Well here, let's fasten off. Oh crap. I just pulled my workout. Okay, let's fasten off. You know how high up this is for me? Like my arms are really raised. That's a big guy. Okay. Fasten off. Oh, that was high up. I got bad shoulders. So, you just need a cinching tail, essentially, and a weaving tail. So, let's stuff this. I can get the loop. Let's get that out of the way. Finish stuffing this guy till you're satisfied. I'm putting a lot of hair around here, so just make sure this is nice and full without overstuffing it. So, alright. Oh, if I can reach. Might have to stand up to do this. I'm only 5'3", guys. That's tall for me. So, you're going to go in the front loop and out the front loop to cinch. So, you're going to do that all the way around. I can only see what I'm doing in the camera. I should have stood up. Okay, I think you get it. I need it down here. Okay. So I'll go all the way around. Don't really need to worry about pulling tight. Good enough for me. So when you're back around, that's when you're gonna pull it tight. So I like to pop across. Let's bring it back down here. I like to pop across. Go through the loop, make a knot. I like to wiggle my knots because I feel it tightens better, and then I like to pop across the other way. Go through the loop and tighten my knot. So that's the top of my head, and then I'm just gonna go down as close as I can. Let me back out a little bit. As close as I can to my lead to cinch. And then when I do that, it's gonna pull that kind of the bubble knot at the top. It's gonna have a hat sitting here attached to his head. And the hair, we're just gonna kind of go around the outside. But I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do. So just weave a couple of more times. Don't just end it there. So, to finish off this chapter, so the next chapter is going to be putting his hair on, his face on, and building his clothes. That's going to be, and his little bow tie. That's going to be the last chapter. To finish this chapter off, I want to build his hat. And then I'll leave you to put the hair around the hat, and that way it's way easier, so that when we do come back in the chapter, we can just work on maybe the rest of his hair, finishing the hair, doing his face, and it just will make things a lot easier if the hat is built first, because you don't need to put the hair all on top here. You just need to put it around where the hat's going to be. So I think building the hat is a perfect idea to end this chapter with. So obviously we're going to do, well, I'm doing black. You don't need to, you can do whatever color you want for a hat. I'm doing a black hat. So I'm going to start with a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch around. Again, we're building amigurumi. After the first stitch goes the marker, and then you can put your second stitch in that same space. So 2 single crochets in the same space all the way around. You should come out with 12 stitches at the end. Your next round is going to be 1 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 18 stitches. That's 1 single crochet and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 24 stitches. That's number 1. That's number 2, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 30 stitches. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. This will bring you up to 36 stitches. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. This brings you up to 42 stitches. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. And the last increase row is going to be 6 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 6 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So this is what you should have. This is what it should look like. I know it's black, probably really hard to see, but it's nothing I can do about that. This little guy at the back, I like to just make a knot. I mean, I could have weaved it in, but it's just a hat. So push that knot all the way down. I wouldn't make it a tight knot because it'll just slip through the cracks and, oh, learn to work my scissors. And then I leave a little nubby when I cut it just so that it doesn't completely disappear on me because it could just pull right through. But so this is the tippy top of the hat. So we need to, my thing is twisted. All right. So we need to go into the back loops for this next round because you need to kind of take it from the top here. I get my guy. Keep grabbing him by the face, so his face is suffering. So this is the top that we just did. The back loops basically take, oh, let me zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the top that we just did, this. So doing it in the back loops takes it from this to this, so that you get a hat that looks like that. So let's pour that. Move all my other stuff around. So I'll zoom back in here. So we're going to go into the back loops. That's as far as I can go. So hard to see, but I'm sure you might be able to see if I do that. So that's the back loops, but you don't actually have to turn it over. So let me get my marker in and I'll show you some more. Let me turn my light up a little bit. Blunk, blunk, blunk. I don't want it to be too super bright. Not that much change there. So holding it like you are crocheting, these are your stitches right here. So we're going to go into this back loop. So you don't have to turn it around. They're all just right here. You don't have to turn it over or anything. They're all just right there. So the way I do it is I take this finger here, because that's the way I hold my stuff. But everyone holds their yarn differently. You could very well hold your yarn differently. I use my finger. So as I'm trying to go into that back loop, I just kind of push it on with my finger. I do it so quick, it's not really that noticeable, but that's what I do. That's how I get into the back loop so easily. So anyway, I know it's not noticeable. I'm using this part of my finger. So anyway, one single crochet all the way around in the back loops only. So now that we've got that back loop business taken care of, we can go back into our full stitch. For the next 3 rows, you're just going to put one single crochet in each of these 48 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So this is what you should have. So we're going to start decreasing. We're going to do a 6 single crochet decrease followed by a 1 single crochet in each stitch. So both of those will be on my pause screen. That's number 1. That's 6 single crochets, and then I'm doing the invisible, so a front loops only. Yoink, yoink. Pull through, finish the stitch, and repeat. So this will bring it down to 42 stitches. So I did my 1 single crochet in each stitch around, following my decrease. So we're going to kind of do the same thing, but this round is going to be a 5 single crochet decrease followed by 4 rounds of 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that's number 1. That's 5 single crochets, and then your decrease. So this brings you down to 36 stitches. So once you're done your decrease, you can do 4 rows of 1 single crochet in each of those 36 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So this is what you should have at this point. This is what your hat should look like. So we're going to do what we're going to do in the front loops. The reason we're doing the front loops, these guys right here, the reason we're doing the front loops is because we need to make the brim of the hat, and this is how we're going to make the brim of the hat. So we're going to increase in this row. We're going to do a 2 single crochet increase in the front loops only. So that's number 1 with your marker. That's 2, and then your increase is going to be 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So don't worry about stretching that front loop out. You'll never notice it. Once the next stitch goes in, it's non-existent. So don't worry about stretching it. So go ahead and continue your 2 single crochet increase all the way around. It gets pretty squishy. So now you're just going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Just be sure to pull your stitches apart so you don't miss any. I will see you on the other side. So you should have 48 stitches at this point, and this is what you should have. So we need to keep increasing to keep building the brim bigger. So our next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1, 2, and 3, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So your next round, you should have 4 single crochets. You should do 4 single crochets and an increase, because it's fun. That's number 1. That's 4 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So this is what you have. 1 last increase row and we're done. So we're going to do 5 single crochets and an increase. And then you'll be able to fasten off. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase. So this is what you should have. So I did not do a round of 1 single crochet to get rid of these points, because number one, this hat's going to roll up anyway, and I like them. Number two, if I was to do one single crochet in each stitch around, it would curl too much, so I would suggest not doing it and leaving it just like this. A lot of clowns have hobo looking hats, and that's why I left everything and I didn't touch it, and I want it to roll up, and so you can fasten off if you're doing what I'm doing. I'm going to show you how to make this look even. So you just need a little tiny bit of a tail. It's just a trick I've never really showed anybody. It's really going to be hard to see, but from here I want you to go skip this stitch and go into this next stitch. Just go into it all the way and pull over, and then before you fasten off, go into the front loop of that stitch before you fasten off and pull. And that just makes it look like there's a stitch there, and it'll even everything up once you pull, and then you can kind of just pop through it and weave at the back, and that kind of makes everything look a little bit neater. I'll do it again in a lighter color somewhere in my videos, I'm pretty sure, but because doing it with black right now is a stupid idea. But yeah, if you just pull that, it just looks like a stitch now instead of where you fastened off. So just go ahead and weave, and then you're done your hat. So these front loops, when we went into the back loops to make the brim, some of these front loops I used to put hair in, but I'll show you that later. What I want to end the chapter off with is, now that you know where your hat's going to be sitting, you can do the hair all the way around. Just make sure you leave room for the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But you can put you can start putting your, now that you know where your hat's going to sit, you can start putting your hair in around. And then we'll come back and we'll do the front loops of this, and that way it looks like he's got, you know, bangs or whatever. I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as that goes. And grab my guy again. So I didn't sew his hat all the way on just so I could show you in the video. It's stuffed underneath here. I'm going to finish sewing it once my video is done, but I needed to show you in the video that I put my hair on like a bald man, right? So I put my hair on like a bald man, and then I put these and all the way around in my front loops before I sewed my hat on. But like I said, my hat's not sewn on entirely yet because of the video that I wanted to make. So that's how your hat rolls up. So it's kind of like a hobo hat, and that's the kind of look that we want. So what I want you to do for the end of this chapter is just start putting your hair in. So I'll show you that, and then we're gonna go. And my battery is gonna die, so I'm gonna change it. Okay, so this is what I used again for the hair. I've already showed this, but this is what I used for the hair. It's Woolies Thick and Quick, and the color is a pumpkin. So I used a Kleenex box, which is why I got a Kleenex box. But before we go start, make sure you have a big pair of scissors. Oh no, I can hang that back up. So make sure you have a big pair of scissors, because these little dinky ones aren't going to do the trick. So I went around widthwise, not lengthwise. So go around as many times as you want. And then you're going to take this and you're going to cut. Now you're going to end up trimming your hair. definitely you're going to end up trimming your hair. So once you've got some hair, if you don't want yours that long, you can just cut it in half. Save some of these you can use for bangs, these little end pieces. So I'm going to get my doll. Hook, doesn't really matter what size of hook you use. Get back down here. So, pick a row to start. I just picked them up by the frickin' nose that time. So, I would suggest, so this is all mine. I literally started from the color change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th row. 8th and 9th row, because I'm on the post, right? And I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows worth, or 5 or 6 rows worth of hair. But you don't have to be that precise if you don't want to. So, this is how you know, first of all, you put your hat on so you can kind of gauge where you want to start. So I think my hat's probably going to be just right on the top of his head, but kind of sitting back a little bit. I think that's how I want mine, because all the hair bangs are going to be here. So don't really need to worry about it, but anyway, figure out where you want to start. Go into your, pick up your post. So those are called posts. So I want you to pick up a post. Take your hair and fold it in half. Now it doesn't have to be that specifically in half, because you're probably going to trim this anyway. Pull it through the post large enough to make a loop. You're going to yarn over with both those pieces and pull through the loop. And then just make your knot. So that's how you're going to attach your hair. So it all depends on how long you want your hair, because the hair does hang down quite far. I trimmed all mine. And that is how you're going to put your hair on. And then you go to the next post, pull through the loop. The stuff is so nice and soft too, it's easy to work with. And that is all you're going to do. Oh. So do that while we're gone, and then when we come back in the next chapter, the last chapter, we will perfect our hair. We'll do the hair in the hat, put the hat on, and then do the rest of the video. So that's all I want you to do. So you're going to have to come down, right? Come down as far as you want, but I mean, the hairline also comes in a little bit, and that's what I did. I kind of came in on a diagonal. Kind of came in on a diagonal with my hair line, but it's your project. You can do whatever you want. I'm just making suggestions. You also don't have to put it on every single post. You can skip a post. It's thick enough. I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine. And you don't necessarily have to get pumpkin either. This particular yarn comes in all different kinds of colors, so So when I get down further in the head, I start skipping a post because it doesn't need to be that thick down underneath, because this whole rest of the hair is going to be covering it. So I'm doing 2 rows at a time now and skipping posts. So far this is what I have. I'm going to zoom out a bit. So far this is what I have. Now that's as far down as I went so far. I don't think I'm going to have to go down any further here, but I might have to add some here down further. Sorry, I might have to add some here down further just to make it look like he's got hair all the way down. But honestly, I don't think I would have to go all the way down. So I'm going to stop here for the head. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows of hair down on a diagonal on both sides. But like I said, I might have to add some more. We're going to do the hat now, just so we get an idea of how much more hair we're actually going to need. So come down here closer. Still drinking coffee. You still do the same thing. You still fold your hair in half. Now these ones don't need to be this long, but you're going to find your front loops. So we had done a row of back loops, which leaves all this ridge here. You see this ridge? That's all your front loops. So you need to find your front loops from that row. Or no, sorry, this would be the back loops, because we used the front loops to make this would be all your back loops. So you're just going to find your back loops, and you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to pull your hair through like you have been on the head. You don't need to do every single one. I did just because I like the bulky. But it's up to you whether you do every other loop or you don't. Yeah, that one's a little close. Sometimes it can get a little squishy. You might want to skip one. I just skipped one. Oops. Anyway, that's all we're going to do. All the way around your loops. And then we have to give it a haircut. So that's my hat. I'm going to have to obviously give him a haircut. I gotta give him a haircut for his hair on his head too. So you just put the hat on. Oh gosh, sorry, it's hard to do on camera. So the hair is pretty full, and then when you get the hat in there, it's pretty full. So we need to sew this hat on, and then we can do the haircut. We need to make a slip knot on one end. Trust me, what I'm going to show you, you'll never see. So you're going to sew the hat on however you want the hat sewn on. Let's just start first. By going through that slip knot right here that you made. When we pull this, this will never be seen. So I'm not into the doll yet. I just went into the hat. So figure out how you want your doll. Like I said, I wanted mine to sit back off the head a little bit. So sew it on any way you want. So I'm right in where my hair is attached. That's where I'm sewing. Because I want the rim of my hat to roll up to a certain degree. So right now, that's where I'm sewing. When I get past the face, I'll probably sew it on a little differently. More up here. But right now, in the face area, I'm about where the hair is because I can see the orange through. Don't forget, you gotta put some stuffing up there as well. But I wouldn't overstuff it because, again, it's supposed to look like a hobo hat. So you want it kind of falling down and not so sturdy and strong. Do you know what I mean? I'm back around with my little tie thingy from where I started. This is my sewing thing, and this is where I started. So I am going to tie these two together before I weave. And I know you can see the orange through, but after it starts to roll up after a few days, you won't really notice that. But you can put a band, probably ribbon or something around. So I just pulled that through and up. I'm going to do the same thing for this after I cut it. Actually, I'm going to save that piece. So I just want to go down and up again. So when I do that, it pulls any knot down that I made, it'll pull that right in. Oh gosh. And then you can cut all this off. So everything's tied in a knot up here, and I feel no knot because it gets sucked down. So there's kind of a close-up of how you can see my orange through my black. But once this starts to roll up, and I don't really care personally because it's hair underneath the hat. So my hat's crooked, as you can see. I kind of made it a hobo crooked hat, and that's just what I did with the stuffing. Like, I mean, I can move it around and make any shape I want, but I kind of like the hobo hat look for the clown. So he's got a lot of hair here. So to kind of determine, we need to give him a haircut. So you can do anything with his bangs I'm just going to kind of make them off to the side bangs. Because I want to be able to see his face. And I probably still will cut that. And then as far as his hair, I might do this over a garbage can, but as far as the hair, so it doesn't look like a girl, I'm probably just going to snip off maybe at the shoulder. So I'm going to do that over the garbage can. I'm going to give it a haircut, and I will be right back. So you go ahead and give yours a haircut, and then I'll meet you back here. So that's mine. I gave it a chop job, so like these are really short here, these are longer. Like I just pretended I didn't know how to cut hair. Those are short, so it just sticks right out. It's just crazy hair. So that's what I did with my guy. I think the bangs are still going to have to be shorter because the eyeballs go up there. I think there's enough hair on this. I was going to fill in some of this part, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I've got all this extra, but I'm just going to throw it out. I don't think I'm going to do that at all. So, the next thing is going to be the face and the outfit, and that's all going to be done in the next chapter. So I will see you in the next chapter. So let's do the nose. Now that our hair is all done, we'll do the nose so we can get the face done, and then we can move on to the last bit, which is just his overalls. So I used red, but you can use any color that you want. This color is from Craft Smart, and it is tomato color. So I'm not going to use my red background. I'll use yellow because it'll be easier to see, I think. So I'll come back down here. Still use my 4.5. So this is super duper quick and easy. You're going to make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So I'm just going to count to 12, putting 2 in each instead of using a marker. It's just quicker. That's my 12. Next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 12 stitches, so I'm just going to count to 24. And for your last round, you're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease. So you might be comfortable with your marker, but really you're only going to do it 3 times. But that's 1 single crochet and then your decrease. Oops. Oh, 4 times I lied. That is it. That's your nose. So you can fasten off. You're going to need a sewing tail. This is just my metal for my magic ring. I'm just going to shove it down there. Put a good amount of stuffing in this just to make it a nice round shape. I get my fingers in there. Oh my gosh, I have 2 left hands today. Alright, we're going to cinch this closed if I can ever get my stuffing in there. So you're going to go in the loop, in the front loop, out the front loop, just like we do with all of our other cinches. All the way around. Pull it tight. Pop across. Make a knot in that loop. Give it a wiggle. And then, as usual, I like to come across the other direction. Make another knot. Give it a wiggle. And that is my nose. So once you determine where your nose is going to be, then you can determine where your eyes and everything are going to be, and your mouth. So, just sew on your nose. So when you just want to weave, you can just go weave up through the nose, down and around. I'm going to make a knot as small as I can push it down. And then I'm going to go into the nose. So when I do that, I pull that knot right down inside the nose so nobody will know it's there, and it keeps it nice, and I hope I was on camera for that. Keeps it nice and safe. So that's my nose. The eyes are fairly simple. You just need to get a little bit of black. Do the mouth first, and then we'll move up. To the eyes. If you're doing a face like mine, you could be doing your own face, and that's perfectly fine. You can do your own face. Doesn't matter where you come in, it just matters where you pop out. So, I'm going to pop out where I want him smiling. If you want him smiling. He doesn't have to be smiling. He can be frowning. Actually, I have a smiling one, so I don't know if you want yours frowning or not. I might do a frowny one. Anyway, wherever you want your thing to come out to make, you know, the sidelines, go down wherever you want your sideline to come. Like if you want your sideline way down here, And when I say sidelines, I mean these at the side, the corner of his mouth, those. So wherever you want those to be, you need to just go down. Now I'm going to make mine short. Now I don't know if I want a frowny face or not, but I'm going to pop across to make my second sideline, so I'm going to try to keep it even. So I want it to match on this side, so I'm going to pop across over here. Okay, so my card filled up and I had to switch everything. So I didn't do anything. So to come across with a smirk, even a big smile, or whatever you want to do, wherever you want to come across, pick up some hairs. And again, I'm just going to show you. Can you see those hairs on my needle? Oh, I'm going to go this way. They're ever so slight. So I'm going to come through. That little piece of hair is going to keep my smile where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to kind of go down underneath the thing and I'm going to pop out somewhere. It doesn't matter where. So that little piece of hair, and nobody's even going to notice it as it being there. But don't unhook yourself yet. If you have enough, and I do, you need to come up. So go back down the same hole you came out and come up wherever you want your eyes to be. Oh, you can't even see me. Go back down this hole, and then you're just going to pop out wherever. I'm just going to pop out in the hat because it's black. And you make your second crisscross eye. So that's all I did for my face. So I just popped out into my hat, but I still want to kind of make a little bit of a knot. Sorry, this is very difficult to do on camera. Some days it's just not easy. So I'm just going to grab a little piece of yarn to make my knot, and when I wiggle it, nobody will ever see it. I'm going to pop in and out. So that's taken care of. And then this guy right here, I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to make sure it's pushed all the way to the bottom, nice and tight. So I don't want it super duper small because the whole reason for this is that knot should get stuck in the stuffing. So it needs to be not super duper tight. Cut it off, leaving this little nubby, and then poke it down right into the stuffing because this is a white face. You don't want to see that black. And then I still need a haircut because I can barely see my eyes. The last thing to do is the overalls, and then we are done. So I'm going to use this purple color. This is from a neon collection. I don't remember the color name. I've had it for a while. This is what I used to make my Barney, and something else just recently actually. But I figured it clashes with all the colors that I have, so that's why I'm using it, because it's going to look horrible. So he's going to look like a clown, right? So anyway, we start with a slip knot, and we're going to chain 57. And then we're going to connect that chain. So that's my 57th chain. So we connect this chain, so just make sure that it is staying straight. You're going to go into the first chain and you're going to connect with a slip stitch. Chain 2. So all you're going to do is put 1 double crochet into each chain around. You should have 56 chains because the one was still on our hook. So you're going to do 56 double crochets all the way around. So I'm back around. This is my 56th stitch. So this is my chain 2. I'm going to go to the top of that chain 2 and I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 1. So when I made these shorts, I went back and forth between double crochet and single crochet. So this first row was a double crochet all the way around, and your next row is going to be a single crochet all the way around. So at the end of it, you'll chain 2. So this one you're just going to chain 1 because it is single crochet. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 56 stitches. If you wanted to mark this because it's so shallow, you can do that. This is your chain 1 space, and that's what I would mark if you wanted to mark that, is your chain 1, because that's what you're going to slip stitch into. So I am back around again. I still have 56 stitches, so in where my stitch marker was, that's where I'm going to go in. That's my chain 1 space, and I'm going to slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 2 because my next round is going to be 1 double crochet in each of those 56 stitches. So again, you can mark the top of your chain 2 so you know where you're going to slip stitch into. So that's 1 chain to each chain, so this is the top of your chain 2. So if you wanted to mark that to make your life easier. And now we're just going to do 1 double crochet in each of those 56 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So I am back around. I've got 1 more stitch to put in. And I marked where I'm going to do my slip stitch. So you don't even need to remove that if it's easier for you to just do the slip stitch around it. We're only chaining 1 here because our next round is going to be the single crochet. So that chain 1 you can mark with your marker. Now, if you use a piece of material, that's fine too. You can use a piece of material. I hate doing that. I don't know, something about it drives me crazy. So I'm just going to use my marker. So you're going to do 1 single crochet. It's so far pretty easy peasy. We're going to do this for a few more rows. So just do 1 single crochet in each of those 56 stitches. So I am back around. I am going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space. and I'm going to chain 2. Because the next round is going to be 1 double crochet in each of those 56 stitches. So I am back around again. I'm going to go to the top of that where my marker was. First chain, I'm going to chain 1. So we're going to soon be separating the 2 legs, like we're going to be making the 2 legs. So this last row of single crochets is going to be your last row before we start doing different things. So just make sure that you have 56 stitches, because that's an even number that I need to be able to divide into. So this last round is going to be just 1 single crochet in each of these 56 stitches. So make sure you're counting this row and make sure you have 56 stitches. So I am back around. That's my 56th stitch. I'm going to go into this chain 1 space. I'm going to slip stitch and I'm going to chain 2. So we need to start making legs. So 28 stitches to make the legs. So we have 56 stitches, and so that's the divided by 2. We're going to put our first double crochet. We're doing this separation in double crochet. So our first one goes into that chain 2 space. We're going to count that as number 1. So it should be in the same space as your chain 2. Count that as number 1 and do 28 double crochets. It just dawned on me that we've been listening to this stupid noise from my dehumidifier this whole time. I'm used to hearing it, so I never think about, sometimes, for the most part, I turn it off. I'm going to go turn this off. That's your 28 stitches, so when you put it back down, it should be even with the row before. Alright, I turned that stupid thing off, so, oh, it's so much quieter. I don't hear it. I'm so used to hearing this dehumidifier run, because most of you know, I'm in the basement. That's where my part of my basement is renovated. Like it's got walls and carpet and stuff like that. So, and then the other part is still like a basement, concrete floor, washer, dryer, fridge, you know, furnace is in there. So I've made my studio the renovated part of the basement. However, I do have to have the humidifier running, and sometimes I forget to turn it off. So I apologize. This chapter so far has probably been quite loud for you. So I've done my 28 stitches. So this is what it should look like. You should be pretty much even with your, like, make sure where you started is in the middle, right? So this should match. If you've done everything right, those should match. You're going to skip 28. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8. Let me count this way so that it's easier for you. And with a double crochet, you're going to go into that space. And then you're going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 2. And then you're going to chain 1. So this is the start of our leg. So now that we've done this, this is the only side we're going to be working. Excuse me. And then after we're done building this side, we're going to reattach and we're going to do this leg. So that's how it's going to play out. And my computer just jumped around and I lost my spot. Alright. So, all you're going to do now is put 1 double crochet. And I know we just did double crochets, but we're going to do 1 double crochet in each stitch around. So I am back around. I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that first chain. I'm going to chain 1. My battery died. Okay, so I've slip stitched. I've chained 1. Starting in that chain 1 space, you're going to start 1 single crochet in each of those 28 stitches. So I'm back around, I've slip stitched. I'm going to chain 2 because my next round is going to be in double crochet. The reason I did 2 doubles there is because this is going to be where his legs bend. And if you do want your clown to sit down, you can't really have this tight stitch in between. And the only reason I'm putting the tight stitches in between is number 1, 2 reasons. It looks cool to design. And it keeps it nice and tight. So we're basically done our leg. I'm just going to put a rim, like trim around the bottom part. So first I want you to slip stitch into the top of that first chain. You're going to chain 2. So we're going to skip the next one. Generally we would put something into this chain 2 space, but we're not. We're actually going to, we're not touching that. We're going to skip this next one as well. We're not touching that stitch as well. We're going to go into this stitch. And we're going to go in with a single crochet. So pull up a loop. And then I want you to twist it. Yarn over and pull through. We're going to do a twisted single crochet, but we're going to chain 1 and skip 1 after we do 1. So that's a chain 1. Make sure you pull up on this loop. Just prevent your twisted single crochet from being tight. This loop also has to be pulled up. So pull up on that loop. You're going to skip 1, go into this next stitch, pull up a loop, and twist it. Yarn over and finish the stitch. So pull up on that loop. Oh, sorry, chain 1. And then pull up on that loop to make sure it's all loosey-goosey. Skip the next stitch, go into the next one, pull up a loop, twist it, yarn over, finish the stitch, chain 1. Pull up a loop, skip the next stitch, go into the next one, pull up a loop, twist it, yarn over, finish the stitch, chain 1. So that's what you're going to do all the way around. It kind of gives you this little detail on the bottom. Skip 1, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, twist it, yarn over, finish the stitch, chain 1. So just make sure you're pulling up on this loop. That just keeps your stuff from being nice and tight. Skip 1, go into the next stitch, pull up. So now you got to make sure both those loops are pulled up high, twist it, yarn over, finish the stitch, chain 1. So keep repeating this all the way around, and then we'll move on to building the other leg. So I'm kind of back around. This is my slip stitch spot, and I'm going to use it to put my last stitch in there, because we're fastening off, so it doesn't really matter. So after you've done your single crochet, normally you would skip one and go into the next one, but as you can see, it's already there. So you can kind of stick your thing anywhere. I just went into that space right there. I just went into the space. You don't have to go into a stitch or anything. Fasten off. So we need to reattach over here for our next leg, which is going to be done exactly the same as the other one. So we crochet in this direction. So we're going to reattach. We need 28 stitches. So all these stitches here are 28 stitches. You're going to go into the spot from the leg before and go into the spot from the leg before over here. Am I in the right spot? Oh, right there. You're going to reattach through both pieces with just a single crochet is fine. That's all going to be pulled down and tucked in. So now you can separate the leg. This is how I do it. This is not how everybody does it. This is how I do it. So you've attached going through both ends with a single crochet. That's never going to be seen, or it's never going to matter. You're going to go straight into a double. So we're on double crochets. And you're going to start in the very next stitch. Sorry, let me redo this. I forgot to chain. Right here you're going to chain 2 because we're going to start our double crochets. So that's just on the reattached single crochet that we just did. You're going to chain 2. And now you're going to start in this next stitch, and you're going to do 28 single crochets, or double crochets. 28 double crochets. So I am back around. I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 2, and I'm going to chain 1. So we're doing double crochets again, because on this side, if you remember, we did 2 rows of the double crochet for the bendy leg part. So our next round is going to be double crochet. I only want you to chain 1 here though, and I want you to put a double crochet counting as number 1 into that chain 1 space. And continue all the way around with your double crochets. So I'm back around with my 28 double crochet. This was a chain 1, so right at the top of that is where you're going to slip stitch, and you're going to chain 1. So that keeps it nice and tight in there with the chain 1s. But we have to start, because we already started, putting the stitch in the same space as the chain. So this one starts with a single crochet. This is the round we're on. So that goes into the chain 1 space, which means you're going to lose your chain 1 if you're not familiar where your stitches are. So you can mark your chain 1. I don't have to. I can see mine, but mark your chain 1 space. You're going to the top of it anyway, which is going to be this bigger stitch. It's not going to be this small tight stitch. It'll be that stitch. The one you just made. In that same space. Anyway, 1 single crochet in each of these 28 stitches. So that's my 28 single crochets. This is my chain 1 space. I'm going to go to the top of that chain 1 space. So in this bigger stitch, and I'm going to do a slip stitch. And I'm going to chain 2 for my last final row. Well, it's not the final. I got to do the twisted single crochet over here, but it's my final round. So let's just chain 2. It's easier to get into it with the twisted part after the twisted part, but you're going to put your chain or a double crochet in that chain 2 space, so you share the space. This helps with the seam too. You're not going to notice the seam as much. And do your 1 single crochet in each of those, or double crochets in each of those 28 stitches. So I'm back around again. I'm going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 2. I'm going to chain 2 again. So I'm going to skip 1. The reason I'm chaining 2 is because generally we do a twisted, chain 1, and then, so pull up on that loop. You're going to skip this, and you're going to go into this with a single crochet and pull up on your loops. Do your twisted, pull around, yarn over, finish the stitch, do your chain 1, and then pull up on the loop. So just make sure this loop is big like before. Skip 1, go into your next one, pull up, twist, yarn over, pull through, chain 1, pull up on the loop, skip 1. So same thing as before. Don't forget to chain 1 before you pull up on your loop, make it big, twist, finish the stitch, maybe, chain 1, pull up on your loop. So this is my chain space. That's why it's so tight. So just like before, I ended up in my chain space. So you can go into any space at this point and fasten off like before. And we're not done. We need to come back and reattach back up at the top. But in the meantime, let's take care of all the stuff down here. And then this guy here, it doesn't really matter. I can probably crochet him in. So there's your legs. So your seam shouldn't be that noticeable in between, because of the way that we did it. So I want you to reattach back up at the top. We're going to do our flower. So you need to get, I'm going to use blue for my next flower and the green for the leaves. So you need those two to be kind of ready. But take whatever short color you're using and reattach. Make a slip knot and reattach into the same space. I'm just going to reattach with a single crochet. So we're going to do 37 single crochets. That's what you should have. Well, no, you should have 56. 37 is what we're going to do before we get around to build our flower, is 37 single crochets. So don't count where you just were. So you're going to go into the next stitch, if I can get in there. So keep in mind, this was a chain, so it's going to be quite difficult maybe to get into some of these. Just do the best you can because this was a chain. So you need to do 37 stitches. This is my 36th stitch. So this is 37. I'm going to finish my 37th stitch with green. So I'm just going to tie my green straggler to my purple. I got to keep the purple there because I'm going back to it. So we're going to do one single crochet. So go into your next stitch and then chain 5. Go back down into the same stitch and do a single crochet. And now chain 7. Come back down into the same stitch and do a single crochet and chain 5. Come back down into the same stitch and do a single crochet. You're going to finish this single crochet with your short color. So I'm just going to bring up my purple. I'm going to let my green drop behind here. I'm holding it with my finger now. And I'm going to finish this last stitch with my purple. So you can just kind of give your green a little bit of a tug down. Bring him around, and I want you to weave him in. It's only a few stitches. It's just to kind of keep this nice and tight. And then you're going to continue for 18 stitches around to your marker. That's 6. I'm going to cut my green off. So this is my 18th stitch. My camera keeps shutting off. This is where we reattached. That's where we reattached. Go into that space and do your slip stitch. These two get tied together anyway, so it's not like that reattached spot's going to come undone or anything. And then from here, we're going to do a different sort of a stitch. So I just want you to chain one. We're going to do an extended single crochet. So I don't mean you're just going to pull up, which is also an extended stitch, just pulling up on the loop. But I mean an actual, real extended single crochet. Don't need to go into this chain one space because we just kind of overtook the reattached spot. If we hadn't done that, it would have looked funny. You would have had, see, we got gapping here from our double crochet. You would have had another gap, and that's why I kind of took over that space. So just go into your next stitch here. So an extended single crochet, an actual extended single crochet, is going into your stitch like a normal single crochet, but you're going to yarn over and pull through one first. Then you're going to yarn over and finish the stitch like a single. That's an actual single crochet. We're going to do 36 extended single crochets. So we're basically going to come back around and we're going to go behind our flower. So do the extended all the way up to your flower, or your leaves basically. So let's do it again. Go into your next stitch like you're going to do a single, yarn over, pull through one, then yarn over and finish the stitch. So that's my 36 stitches. So we've got one more to do. I just wanted you to stop there in case you wanted to work ahead of me. So go into your 37th stitch. This is where we changed colors. So go into your 37th stitch, do an extended single crochet and chain one. Ignore everything in here and pop across to the next available stitch, all in behind this green, and continue with your extended single crochets. So we're going to come back around and fill that space right there, so it's not always going to be a space. The reason I chose to do extended is because I want to kind of keep with the same double, single, the appearance of it, but I don't want to have the height of it. So that's why I chose to do the extended single crochet there, if that makes any sense to you. And I guess you can't really on camera all that well. So you still kind of get the appearance of what we were doing here, just not as tall. So I just want you to slip stitch to this first chain. And we're just going to do single crochet, so you just need to chain one here. And you're going to do 36 single crochets basically all the way around till you get to this space. And this space is where we're going to put our flower. So you're going to need your flower color. Mine is going to be this blue because it's super duper pretty. So I will meet you around. That's my, oops. So this is my 36th stitch. I'm not sure how. I thought it was 37, but anyway. I am going to finish that with my flower color. So again, I'm going to tie my blue to my purple. It just keeps everything nice and snug and secure in there. It all has to be weaved in, so I'm making more work for myself. So inside this great big space, you see my finger poking through right there. We're going to do what's called a cluster stitch. Same thing we did up on the shirt of the clown, but I don't know if you remember. So we're going to do double crochets in this instant. The number I chose to do is 5. So in here you're going to do 5 double crochets, the full stitch. Gets pretty squishy. So that's 5. You're going to pull up this loop and remove your hook. You're going to come over here to the first loop the first stitch that you made. You're going to put your loop on the end of your hook, so pull this tight. Not too tight, because you want to yarn over, pull through that loop, and then pull through that stitch. And then normally you would secure that with a a single crochet. However, we need to change back to our purple or whatever color you're using. So I'm just going to kind of drop that. We'll deal with it later, and I'm going to do my secure stitch with my purple, and then I'm going to come across into the first available stitch down here to continue with my single crochets. So that's what it ends up looking like back there, but you can pull down and tighten everything up nice and tight to keep it safe. You can tie these into a knot. Like I said, everything is getting all weaved in anyway, but you know me and safety. And then you're just going to do, what do we do, 18 single crochets? 18 single crochets back to our marker. That's 6. So that's your flower on your shorts. This is my 18th stitch. I'm going to go to the top of that first chain and I'm going to slip stitch. So this is where we start making our straps. So all of this, I tied mine in knots. I just need a long enough tail to weave because I got to weave all this in. I mean, I guess I don't have to, but to make everything nice and neat, I kind of do. So I'm going to move all my flower stuff out of the way. Let's get everything else out of the way. From here, you're going to chain 41. That's my 41 stitches. You're going to do 40 single crochets back up because 41 stitch, the 41st stitch is still on my hook. So 40 single crochets back up. And for the next 3 rows, you're just going to kind of go up and down. So I'm all the way back down to the bottom. I want you to put a single crochet into this next stitch and then turn. And then go back up for 40 stitches. I am back up at the top again, so I'm going to chain 1, I'm going to turn, and I'm going to go all the way back down. So I'm back down to the bottom. I'm going to go into the shorts. That's my strap, one of my straps. So I'm going to do 51 single crochets. So I'm not slip stitching anymore. This is the last-ish row. It's the last row. We got to build our other strap though. So I'm not slip stitching anymore. I'm just going to go around like amigurumi. Yeah, we now want to do 51 single crochets from here. That counts as number 1 where you reattached. Off the strap, that's number 1. This is my 51st stitch. That's 51. I'm going to chain 41. That's 41 stitches. I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to do 40 stitches back down. So I'm back down at the bottom, and then I got my last stitch here. And then I'm going to go, so this is your other, where we started, you've got one stitch. So you're going to go in, you're going to make your single crochet in that last stitch, and then you're going to fasten off. So you need a tail to do some decent weaving. So we're going to make that look a little bit better so it doesn't look like crap like that. I'm not sure what it is with this yarn. It really wants to split all of a sudden. So go into this tiny stitch. Go into all of it. Pull that through and down. And then come around and go through the front loop of that exact same space you just fastened off of. And give it a nice snug pull. And then just go through so you can weave over here. So because I just did that, I just want to make a small wee little knot on this side. Because of what I just did. Just to secure it so it doesn't kind of get all loosey-goosey and open up. Especially if you're planning on washing any of this stuff. So because I made that small little knot, I really don't have to weave that far. But I do have to weave in all this other crap. I notice how heavy my head is. I might have to cut some of my hair because my head is heavy. Once he's up, he's fine, but see what I mean? Grab him by the arms, his head wants to go back. So I might have to cut some more hair off, which is fine. No big deal. I can cut all underneath here, lighten the load a little bit. So if you're finding that your head is heavy, then you can just cut your hair. So I cross these. You don't need to cross them, but I cross them. But they're close enough together that you can do whatever you want. And then you can sew your buttons wherever you want. So that's why we put our flower where we put our flower, just so it wasn't in the way of our things. And that's why our flower is way over here on the short, so that it wasn't in the way. So I need buttons. So I'm using just a regular needle. I'm going to untwist. So I have sewing thread-ish. So I'm going to use the 2 pieces. And I'm sure you know how to sew on a button. I do it the lazy way. So you can put your button anywhere you want. It doesn't matter if there's an overhang. So I really don't care where my overhang is or if there even is one. So after I do that, I just tie it very tightly. I do leave nubbies. So I just forced a hole in mine anywhere. I just forced it by stretching, because I don't plan on undoing this ever. So yarn stretches pretty good. I just stretched a hole and I did it up. So we go sew the other one on. There we go. That's my clown. That's our clown. So his pants have the spaces that they should have to be dorky, right? They should go down to just his socks, where you can still see his geeky socks. So he's a great big geeky funny looking guy. And we are done. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, because I'm pretty proud of this guy. Hi, funny story. So I already did my outro and everything and forgot that I didn't do the bow tie. So there's going to be a funny little clip before the actual outro that I've already filmed, because I'm sticking in this clip now of the bow tie. So let's do that and then the end of the video. So before I start the bow tie, I just want to point out that I did do my little button. I glued on my little button flowers. You can get these on Amazon. They're just wooden buttons. They do have the 2 holes in them for sewing, but I just used them. I used them on my Volkswagen Bug that I built too as well, and then I just glued them to the hat. So that one's hard to see, but I just wanted to point that out. I think it's cute. Gives you an idea of what you want to do. So I think I'm just going to do my my bow tie in this color. So this color that I used for the sock and for part of the t-shirt, and I didn't have the tag at the time, but I did find it while I was cleaning up after my video. And this is a Craft Spartan Mint. That's the color of it, is mint. So I'm using a 4mm for the bow tie.
Well, have a background. I don't know if you've ever done a bow tie with me. Here, I'll do a yellow background. I don't know if you've ever done a bow tie with me. Oh, yellow may not be a good idea. Let me see what else. Let's try blue. Let's try this way. That's a little better. Let's try red. You would think I would become prepared since I screwed the video up already. Oh, that's the wrong side. I need the side to stick. There we go. Red should work. Now it just looks like white. Whatever. You should be able to see it.
So we're going to start off the bow tie by chaining 5 and doing 4 single crochets. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. So that's my 5. And you're just going to chain 4 single crochets back up, because that's all you have in working chains, because the 5th one is still on your hook. So you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn. So I'm just going to bring my thing up here so I can weave it in for the next 3 rows. I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches. So after your 4 rows is done, I'm going to just snip off my little tail here. I weaved all that all the way up, so chain 1, turn your work. So now I just want you to decrease 2 times. So you're going to decrease these first 2 and decrease these last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now for the next 2 rows, I want you to put a single crochet in each of these. Easy peasy. Chain 1, turn your work. And now we're going to increase. You're going to increase both these. So you're going to put 2 single crochets in the same space here. And then your next stitch, 2 single crochets in the same space. Chain 1, turn your work. And now you have 4 stitches again. So for the next 3 rows, I want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. If you want to change color here to do the other side of the bow a different color, which is what I did on my last one, you can do that here. You can just change color here. I'm just going to do mine all one color. So we're not changing color at all. So 3 more rows of 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches. So that's 6 all together. We're going to do the same thing we did already over in this area. So you're going to decrease 2 times. So you're going to decrease these 2 stitches. And then you're going to decrease the next 2 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. You have 2 stitches. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 2 stitches for 2 rows. Chain 1, turn your work. So now we're going to increase these 2 stitches. So in this first stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. In this next stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. And now you have 4 single crochets again. Chain 1, turn your work. And for the next 3 rows, you're going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 4 stitches. And that is it. So you can fasten off. You're going to need a bit of a tail. So you're going to, here where we did 6, you're going to fold that in half. So this end meets this end. And that is your bow tie. These two ends get whip stitched together, hence why I put that extra row over here, because we're going to use this first row to do our whip stitch, so it would have looked funny. Would have looked uneven. I'm going to go back in, just right next door, find somewhere to go back through, and pop out in the middle. So without pulling tight, you can just wrap the middle a little bit. So we don't want to go completely overboard as far as wrapping. And then I'm just going to come through the back, I'm going to go through the loop and make a knot. I could have probably used a little longer of a tail, so just make sure that's in the middle. Even Steven. So you can tie this around their neck, or you can sew it. The last one I tied, but this one I'm just going to sew around his neck because it's just easier. So I have a short little tail, so I can't really go that far as sewing. So I'm just going to make my knot, if I can. If I can even make a knot. I've gotten so small with this. I'm just going to go through the loop, make a knot. And then you can just pop out somewhere, just so that doesn't, so that knot gets pulled down. Cut it off, and that is your bow tie. Or you can make a long thing, tie it around his neck, but that's his bow tie. Well, my camera decided to shut off right at the end, so it wasn't too bad, but I kind of wasn't at the end. So anyway, that's his little bow tie. I think I still need to give him a bit of a haircut, but anyway, this now is going to cut into my outro.